Good evening, everyone who's joining us online. We just want to thank you in advance, and you're joining Sin Philosopher and Cross End Time Ministries International for a discussion on the matters that are happening within our nation, and today it's on praying and violence. And there's a lot going on, there's a lot to be said, and we have a diverse panel of both males and females to just share on the topic and to share what God is leading them to say in this time. So before we start, just to give you a brief background and context on crime and violence in our nation, every time you look in the newspaper or every time you listen to the news, there's some shocking shooting. There's someone who will have passed away based on gun violence, a stabbing, a lot of anger, and every time you go into the newspaper, there's a few couple articles that is always on the level of crime and convictions of mainly men, young men who have been committing crime, and really the judges are getting disappointed in what is happening within our nation. So this is going to hand it over to Reverend Carrie, Prophetess Carrie, sorry, who's going to begin to play a hit and then share a few thoughts. So Reverend Carey, we'll begin with you. And there's a link now being made between, I guess, housing and crime and violence within our nation, which is a big jump in everything that is happening. I don't think the immediate link between crime and violence is to housing. So just begin to share your thoughts on that particular matter or comments that would be.
I just think that there's a total disregard for the spiritual aspect of our nation. There's always some other excuse being made. There's always some natural cause, but we never hear anything from our prime minister about the spiritual need of our nation. And when I look back, I realized that, for example, I was thinking about it. You don't see children being sent to Sunday school anymore. So you don't have people that have a sense of godliness, a sense, even a fear of God. There's no conscience, and you will find, for example, I saw just today, somebody sent me a video with some cars, and some people went to Bushy Park. They went to observe what they were racing or whatever. When they came back, all the tires were gone, and the cars were popped up on stones, right? So you have another category of criminality that we didn't have before. That means that the demonic realm has gone to another level, right? So when are we gonna? Just before that, we had actually, I got somebody sent me another one. A lady went to some soca event, and somebody held her at gunpoint, and that's not something we are accustomed to. Why? Because in Barbados, years gone by, people had a consciousness of God. People had a fear of God. Even criminals had a fear of God because that was inculcated in them from childhood.
And just want to play, I don't want to call it devil's advocate, but there'll be individuals out there that will say, well, a new grant fund was made available to the churches. And if you hear the advertisement for that particular initiative is that, well, if it is that you want to do a program in your community, if it is that you want to engage the youth in your community, and maybe the government might say, all right, we're now trying to re-engage the churches to do some work within the communities to help mitigate probably crime in these particular instances. What would your thoughts be on that particular matter?
What about them? God is not a poppy God. He's not a poppy show. And he knows when we are serious about seeking him. He is real. And we have to realize that we have let God down in every aspect, starting from the government back down. So it can't just be the churches alone to go and spray puppy on people. everybody has to realize that we were a God-fearing nation and we have no kick God out. So that is not the solution. And I don't know, other people on the panel may want to respond.
Sister Patricia, you go ahead, Sister Patricia.
Good evening, everyone. My thoughts on this is that before our society, on Sundays was a day of worship, but now it's all about partying. So it's like we have enforced these demonic entities into our nation because we have forgotten how they even took it out of the schools. And that is something that the children is a foundation, it's building a foundation. So when you take that out of school, and even in the homes also, it's not in the homes also. So then we bring this entity now, we don't fear God anymore, and we're doing as we please. So even with the churches, where the churches are supposed to be in the communities, they're supposed to be the ones also going up into the communities and share the gospel. They're not doing that. So when you don't do that, you have a breakdown in the foundation of the church in the community. That's what the churches are supposed to be doing, going out into the community. No government shouldn't have to pay churches to do the work of God. You're not supposed to be paid to do the work of God. You are a servant. The churches are servants of God. So the government is supposed to be paying, so when you don't pay, what that's like a bribe. You're taking a bribe, and God is not pleased with that. So his judgment is on the nation for that. You don't fear him.
Yes, so we're now in a state where we, the church, is no longer advising the government, but the government is advising us. So back then, it was always God had a message from the church to the government, to the leaders. And that was like a reversal. It's like, all right, government say this is the issue, and we need churches to join on. But we are really supposed to be taking the initiative. So I just asked Reverend Sharon to just jump in at this moment, especially in terms of the foundational aspects of schools education, looking at how that can play a role in the fabric of our nation pertaining to the youth.
Good evening, everyone. Let me start by saying, based on the audio that we just heard, I want to say that that's when we had the village raising the child. On the homes that we lived in were extensions on that home. So we can't call them shanties. Shanty is separate from an addition to a home and a family. So an uncle would add on to a household, and his children would be in that extension. We still had the extended family where the grandparents, the uncles, and the aunties, and everybody was there. That's where we had the village raising the child. The shanty for me, on the other hand, is something that somebody just illegally placed someplace outside of the home or within the community. And we have been seeing that on blocks and in places where nefarious activities are carried out. So I would not link that to the family, because for me that is wrong. You can't blame that institution called the family, right? What happens is, as a result now, this nation that we have, there's a lot of employment happening among not just the young people, but everybody really. Because before, where we had the extended family helping out and everything, our parents are now younger, so they're raising their children. So we don't have that extension anymore. Because of what they may have been through, they probably decided as parents, I need to have my own space and raise my family. So then we have the conflict in between the families that we go. So the dynamics change, and we get the family that we will classify as being dysfunctional, right? All of these contribute to the trends that we are seeing in society. And that's where we have to look at the challenge. Now, somebody talked about church, and before, as children, as a family, rather there's an addition to the household, not everybody was going to church. Everybody was going to Sunday school. We had the older persons in church who would pray for the young people, etc., right? We had all of that. We had persons coming into the community and sharing the gospel by word, megaphone. We had all of that, right? But as we grew as a nation and we took on a lot of the ways of the Western world, And then we had a lot being introduced in terms of like maybe different religions and people deciding, oh, I don't have to do this, I don't have to go to church so often, and all of these things that this nation was grounded in, they obviously disappeared over time. So it's kind of like to each his own. So that's where we allow all of these things to come into the nation. We gravitate to what is not cultural, what is not us. And we are taking all these things from the outside, and they now become the norm. So that's where the nation then becomes defiled as a result of things that we are not accustomed to. Types of murders we are not accustomed to in this Barbados. We are not accustomed to it. Yeah? And the behaviors that we see, we're not accustomed to, where an elder can correct a child before. We can't do that now because there's some conflict happening and a person's going to want you to say anything to their children. So we can't correct. So, and then in terms of coming to church, nobody is coming because even when persons were coming to church at the time, there was a time persons came to church and they were young people especially, and they were in the church and maybe somebody got pregnant outside and the leaders in the church said, don't come back. So if you start a trend then and you're talking about young people going to church, but remember what you did to the youth, right? So you caused that, you did not even give them an opportunity to really get to know God. So that when we are going forward, we have generations now, we can continue to build on what we had before. But no, that's not happening, right? That's not happening. And so when we talk about this money that is being given to churches, and I say, wait, I ask myself, how many churches have young people in it? How many churches understand what is happening in society so that the programs that we are hearing supposed to be touted or put on can be done effectively and efficiently? How many churches? How many churches do they know what these people experience? People will come to a church and the premise is talking about praying. People come to church hungry, they can't go to her because they get nothing from her. They come to church because they want something. Yeah? Some of them want feeding families. They need help outside the society. Of course, and the church is supposed to be playing that kind of role, but persons are not going to come because of maybe something they heard or it is not enforced inside of the home. So my parent doesn't go, so I don't have to go to church either, right? So when we have to do the evangelism and we have to talk to parents and tell them how important it is to have a foundation that is rooted in Christ, yeah? People say, oh, well, God can't do nothing for me, and we're going to pay my bills and all these different things. Because we are looking up the outside, we're not looking up. We're not looking up. And we don't understand that if we don't look up, we're going to get worse. And then we are looking to persons, which is the government, the politicians, for all the help that we need. They're not going to. They can't help you. What is happening is as a result, somebody spoke of bribery, a lot of the bribery and all the corruption and all these different things among our youth coming up. They're seeing the same people that they're looking up to engage in these things. Yeah? So as a child, how can you correct me when you doing the same thing? Right? And they can't go into your house. It's kind of like you're telling our young people, oh, it's okay to do so and so and so. So it is okay. It is okay for you to dress how you are dressing and coming to church. It is okay for you to dress how you're dressing and coming to an institution. We've forgotten the principles on which this nation was built. We are talking about our forefathers. We're talking about them, but we are not respecting them. I don't think we understand what they went through to build this nation upon. I don't think we don't, some people today don't understand. And because we live for a moment, we just want the microwave thing, and that is it.
I'm glad you said that because I was thinking, I'm glad you said that. You said a lot of things, but I'm glad you said that because I was thinking the other day, why do people come along, see something in existence, and think that it can just come up to away? They did not know that there was a reason why it was there.
Exactly.
There was a reason why God gave people insight into doing things, right? But you said something about policy. You said that we've seen government is putting policies that really are against God,
Correct.
against the word of God. So what do they expect? What do you expect if you're going to put in policies that the word of God is there because it's the word of God. It's forever settled in heaven. And in my opinion, our government does not fear God. And it trickles down into our communities.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? They don't fear God. So how do you expect your man to fear life? Right? To fear somebody, to consider somebody's life. When you yourself don't realize, hey, the life giver, you need to be afraid of him so that they can realize that they need to be afraid of him too. Right? You have not really set an example, so you don't have to fear nobody. Actually, you take corporal punishment out of school, so they don't fear the teacher, they don't fear the parents, they don't fear the God, they don't fear nobody, and then you expect them to not be afraid of guns.
But when you tell them, pray to your own God, now here is a lot of idolatry now. Because we know of one God. We know of the God of Isaac, Abraham, Jacob. We know of one God that rules this nation and rules this world. But when you are telling people to pray to your own God, what are you saying? What exactly are you saying to me?
Let's bring it again at this point. Because the women have quite a lot to say, and funny enough, we recently had the appointment of a new commissioner of police as a female, and given the leadership of a strong enforcer in this region. But just to hear your thoughts on this matter in particular.
Okay, of course, the audio that you played. Somehow, I do not disagree with her on the way she put it. Because there are a lot of shanties around in Barbados, a lot of communities. Okay, if you go down like where the cemetery is, Westbury, there are houses there down there that pack as close as those chairs. So in one house, they neighbor dwelling, right? In one house, you have like 50 people living in that house, and you can't blame the government. No government can blame for that, right? So this supposed to bring in a girlfriend, that was bringing a girlfriend, that was supposed to bring a boyfriend, and then somebody have a child who doesn't know who's the father of the child because there's so much we have going on in the way, right? So then this brother and that brother in confusion because of this girlfriend and because of that. So there's a lot of issues going on within those pockets in the community, those shanties. A lot of, so then, and then the other thing is that they have parents who they have a mother 25, the grandmother 35, the great grandmother 45. So, and they never accustomed to church. They never go to church. And so when you go into this community, you see one person sit down there smoking, then a person drinking, and they passing the weed, the stiff to the next person, and this person pregnant but is smoking. So then the child, when the child comes, the child messed up already. So regardless of what the church try to do, which is a lot of what the church has to do, enough. Because them children before God, okay, God chose us from before God. He knows who we are going to be. Right? Before God. He chose us. Right? But before God, those children mess up. So the church got to go now and fight as society and the whole, got to fight to get these children normalized. Teachers, and okay, Sister Sharon spoke about Reverend Kerry spoke about corporal punishment. Some of these teachers abuse people, children. They go to school frustrated because of the problems they have home. And they go to school and they abuse people, children. So, in my opinion, I don't have any children, but in my opinion, I have nieces and nephews. Any teacher hit my nieces and nephews, we go ahead and have a court. Because a lot of teachers abuse, they go with their frustration because the other husband have, or the wife or somebody have some issues, and they go to school and they go and abuse the children, and that happens a lot. That's why they have to take it out of the school. That happens a lot.
You're making this claim based on evidence?
Yes, yes, it happens a lot. A lot. So I do not disagree with you taking corporal punishment out of school. I know for instance, where a teacher took a piece of like a plant of wheelbarrow handle and hit a boy across the back, right? And that wasn't right. And because it's somebody who comes from poverty and they can't do anything, they just have to accept it. Because Mr. So and so do it, and they just have to take it. My niece, when she was going to George Gammon, the teacher took them and carried them down in some basement to clean a basement. They're not janitors. She asked the teacher to call me because her parents overseas. When I went to school, I took my niece from the opposite school because the teacher said, you can't take that 11-year-old child, put them in a basement to clean a basement. That is not right. So a lot of mess up things happening in the educational system, which is messing up the children. So yes, the church have to go forward, come forward and be in the forefront and help, but I again disagree with the way they are doing it because it should be something voluntary and not where the government giving out money because as you said, how many young people are going to be a part of it and how effective it's going to be. So.
I just wanted to add to what you were speaking about relative to the housing. Because right now we have a housing problem and the shanties will come because there's a migration problem. And that's a problem. There is a migration problem and the laws that we have in place, I don't know if they're working or not. But before, we never used to see people, Barbados having to set up the shanty, it was associated with the Rastafarian community. And they say they have a shanty or whatever. But we are finding in this Barbados, and people are not saying it, but all the migration problem, persons are coming in, they are the persons who setting up the shanties. Because that's a lifestyle that they're accustomed to, a culture, so they don't come and set up and they eliminate. But that is not attributed to the culture of Barbados. So the government needs to deal with the migration problem.
My thing is, I'm trying to assess what you said, and we're going to leave to what she said. And ultimately, the problem is not the shanties and it's not corporal punishment. It's the absence of God in the hearts of people. Because if teachers really have God in their hearts, there will be no child abuse. And I can tell you, it can't be shanties. Why? My mother grew up in a generation where they had 8 children in one house, 5 girls on one bed. Some of them slept on beds that had shapes in them and had straw. But they grew up as Christians, and they grew up loving, and they grew up sharing, and the communities helped each other. And there was not that level where you could leave your shanty open and nobody came in and stole anything because God was in there. And that's the problem that is missing in our nation. And it has to start with people not just pushing policies that they get from outside. They need to start putting God back where he belongs.
Is there quite easy to want to hear another male perspective on this in terms of just there's a lot of males being seen, men being caught in these crimes. Not saying there's not women as well, but what is your take where men are going at this point in time? So we said as well, and the factors you think is contributing to this particular issue with men, and where you would like to see men go in this time.
Most of the men, I think, are very rejecting their family. So what they actually do is go to the docks to find a family. So they think that the guys that they're mixing with are their real family. But they have shown some guys say that Their parents don't give them the love that the guys would say. We try to give them. So that's why a lot of them get involved with drugs and a lot of things. And some of those people are actually like selling marijuana these things for these people, which I don't think is good. It's not a good thing. But as the shanties, I can remember that let's say you have a family of 10 males. They don't like what's going on in the house. So what they do, they go into the backyard and build something that they could come to themselves. So when they do that, they have a family. They produce families and things like that. So as what was said on that clip from the previous, I don't think crime started over there at all. But they have some areas that is set around Ireland where people go out to all the songs. I know that for a fact. But I think the areas that I saw, even prostitution goes on in some of those places. That the bottom line is, I was actually told that the government of Barbados careful on this kind of stuff. The government is told in some of the communities. So to take the people's mind from the real thing that is happening one way. The government was told them to go I have really doing and see myself. That's all I have to say. But yes, we need to have God back in the society. That is happening. That came across for 9, 10, 11 years. That will be checks in your life. And that's the name of my info first. So that is really lacking, and we need to get there on the team and try to find the team for all year and after. That's my take on the whole situation.
Sorry, Minister Waldron, your thoughts on just the role of, I guess, the older generation now. They would have been passing on the baton for quite some time, and it seems like a lot was lost in just conveying some of those words. Not to say that the youth would have not gone astray as well and said, well, we don't want this anymore as well, but the role of the older generation and what that role should look like now as well. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts is, as you grow up as young children, you was brought in the church. And we had to go to church every Sunday. We couldn't say they go to church, but we get lashes after work, morning, after work, evening. So now everything changed. Nobody walked on. Everybody going for guns, going for drugs. They go for guns and drugs and everything that I don't make them happy, but it can't make them happy because it's not from God. You have to call upon God everything that you do. And you need to pray more and seek God because God is in the midst of everything, but not crime nor violence. And we know that all this gun play that's going on. These children is educated children, they're not dummies, they're educated children, but they just want to make everything that they see. And another thing too, they take the girls up to school. That's very important, because we should be in school to teach the children what is right. And every night the parent should teach them to pray. If you don't teach your children to pray, they can't pray. God don't know who's God. I come along, they always say my grandfather said, come here and sit down. And he said, Polly, read this word. If you can't read it, I can read it for you. And he will read it. And he will say, all right, I'm going to pray. And he will pray. But I never see drink alcohol, I never see smoke, I never see meditation, I never see dead places. But I remember when I was growing up and I was working for myself. I went out, a girl in Bootleaf, when I went out, I didn't even know what place I didn't know the stadium. And I went to the stadium. And then I get back home late. And my grandfather meet me at the door and he said, where have you come from? Go back. And they said, look up there, see the keys handling. And I take the keys. Went down my father's house, turned over the bed, and I sleep. And when they get the money, they come up, I said, Ty, you know what you do was wrong? He said, well, you had the right doing that, because you is a child to me, and you should listen and hear me. I said, but Ty, working for myself, no, so, I feel as a woman, but you know, so another time then, I went somewhere and come to you a hook stick. And instead of the capture, I hook you with a stick and put some licks in you. And that made me a change and it was a different woman to me.
I guess punishment done in love, true love, makes a difference. It's not that they're doing it from a place of hurt or abuse or they're coming. So a lot of our teachers may not have the love of God as well. So we really have to have that approach of disciplining the youth for this generation in this sense. So we have Deaconess Deaconess Elizabeth, Victoria, sorry. You can go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My thought on the whole matter is that we have very read from God. We're supposed to start as young children went to school on Sundays. And a lot of children went to school on Sundays. I remember when I was going to school, at primary school, every lunchtime we come in from front books and lunch, we pray. We come back in from lunch, you have to pray again. You know that don't happen at primary school at all, as far as I know. We don't pray at all. And first, during vacation times, you have to go to Bible, it has to be Bible school. No, then the Bible school is normal summer camp, and you just want to run home and come back home. Then the Bible school are all on vacation time. Every vacation, I know we have the Bible school, every vacation. So they have really moved away from God, except for the schools. Even honestly, workplaces, except God from everywhere. There's God from nowhere. All the people want to party and have fun. They should not have me. Even God tell them God, they're ready to curse them, they don't want to hear nothing but God at all. The first thing God tell them God for the church, the first thing they tell you, you're going to a cult and you then brainwash. And this our son is going to tell you want to tell about God. You don't want anything at all to do with God. And that is things that should not be happening.
No, man. Listen, I listen to everybody speak about the youngsters and shanties and everything. But there's nothing in shanty. There's nothing in shanties. That's just a myth. It's a myth. Because as a result, in my community, there is no youngster to find yourself against the people. They will slap or kick. And you can't go home and tell your parents nothing. When he was there, and slap the kid too. But I just tell my to the church, I just tell the teachers, if they give them trouble, cut the jail. And they can't come up to me because when a child leave home, the teachers are in charge of the church or to come back home. Yeah. But no, if a child goes to school now and don't take, kids down there want to beat the church. I felt the security guard. If I think about it, I would be so bad. I mean, it's serious. A child when a child leave home, the teachers are in charge. Because if anything happens to the child, you know the person, oh, the next school, the teacher said this. So when that happens, now, why they should go and be the teachers? You know, so I know we would match up kind of, we had a little thing we would build, when we would call shining now. We had a little thing that we youngsters were like, hang out there, we're going to play football, we would pick up their food, and then we go back home. Right? But it so happened now that the migrants come in, people want money, so they build a little thing from the place, and got everybody jammed up inside there now. They use another devil pills and all sorts and nonsense. So you think about when these people use these things, they're lost, they don't know what's going on. Huh? I want you know, because that is news. My wallet and this, and mollies and different things. And when this thing around the body, they don't know that here, they don't know the body, but this thing just corrupt the brain. The corrupt the brain, so they don't know what's going on. Check these days for the youngsters that have big guns in the house. They believe that they call it babies, but they don't know what's going on. As you call, you got to call the thing. God is called within and without. I just tell people all the time, right? Exactly. I tell people that God, they made covenant with His Son Jesus. It's working well with Buffett. Don't nobody know who that God is. I see these things happen. God destroy everything, but you don't care. Because but when you say we'll never destroy the world again, that we put Jesus there. The F you didn't put Jesus there. All in now. I see these people don't allow the wickedness feel that them is God. And I say to myself, why can them turn people? But God said, I want that. I don't want that. Then you will see the outcome of going and go after. And this year, I watch TV, they buck countries, these people, and then there is some beast on the road, and they're taking the money for they try to help the people and bring this world back together. They want to order the depopulating the world. They want to do this. And I don't see the people go and draw like those resources from the islands and then want their own children. You know? But that's God. So they put Jesus there. This is the time ready. And we work down. It's a serious thing. Thank you all.
I think we can hand it over to Michelle. But before we go there, I think what he's really trying to say is that God is really being compassionate, but He's withholding judgment in the hope that we repent. So it's not that He's a righteous God, He's a holy God, and He expects the same for us as His creation. But if it is that we're not doing what He wants us to do, is then eventually judgment. And the Israelites is a testament to that. God was talking to them for so long. And there was Isaiah, there was Ezekiel, all these prophets God would have sent. And He was upset. And I'm sure He would have been giving them signs and wonders and really showing His power as to, well, this is a threat that is coming your way, but they did not respond accordingly. So I'm going to hand over to Reverend Michelle to give her thoughts. I know in terms of crime and violence and really where she would hope that this nation would go in terms of solutions.
Good night, everyone. Right in Barbados. My thoughts on crime in Barbados. Now, I want you to know, I must admit that when you put it in it was Reverend Kerry actually that was telling me something years ago. She was telling me some things that was happening. But that's before I came to the church. She was trying to get me to the church. So she used to call and confuse me every Friday when they watch Jesus. But so, she was telling me about the things that are happening and you have to pray and how wrong outside is. So, I telling her she must come again because I have a lot of greenness around me and stuff. Just kidding with her. But I remember that I believe it was Saturday or Monday I was going to up home and my mom and was while I was going up there, the Spirit of God spoke to me and said to me that I live a very privileged life. I don't know half the things that's happening in this island. I don't know the things. that is going on with the children and things of the, because of how I live. And when I go home on Friday, I hardly get back out until Monday. When I get home Friday evening, outside in the city from Monday morning back to work. And he kept talking to me about how many things are going on. Because it was something, I don't remember what it was, but it was something that was going on that she was telling me about. And I didn't know what was going on. But he told me that she's so was going on. And, it's just because of how he lived that they don't pick up on it. So we tell me to go to church. Go to the church with her. That's how he got there. And I'm telling you that to tell you that, but I'm not so naive anymore, because if something is happening, even if I'm not aware that it is happening, since you get into a deeper relationship with God, you would just be looking at the paper and things you'll start seeing, or it will come to your spirit that something is happening, and sometimes you see children, because they remember after you told me all that, when they got up there, when they got to where it was going, there were 3 boys driving in front of me, just a pair in front of me, driving fast, and then they stopped in the middle of the road, and they were all there laughing. They looked breezy, and they couldn't understand why. I said, "Oh, they look so breezy," and then I recognized one. He was my second cousin. And I said, "They all look very breezy." And the Spirit said, because they now come from teaching. They now come from teaching. So that's how they do it. They grease them with body, with that. They grease them with body and so on. So as I drove and went to, when I come back, I was turning around the park. And my cousin was there, it was her son, and Spirit made me to tell her that she don't speak to me. Pray for me and speak to her. He's going to die very death, So I went and tell her, I went and tell her, the grandmother said that she was praying for him. So I said to her, not those little prayers you're praying, that's not prayers you want. You need prayers, and it's not funny, because if you don't, he's going to die. He's going to die, And then I had to tell them, I was just following orders, So I had to tell them that the guys that they were with, the 2 guys, my Spirit said that, tell them to keep from those 2 fellows, who don't know who he's with. And she then told me she keep telling him so he doesn't listen, So I don't want to tell you what he know about Christ. So then that's when they find out that that's how young people teach and so on. And then in midday, they leave home in midday, but come to think of it, it was just after 12 when I went up there. And that's how they steal, they go and they steal the things at that time, And sometimes they have on shirts, but then they grease down and pick off the shirts, so you try to grab them or hold them, and so on. So I'm telling you that to tell you that is not, that's what I know about crime, other than teaching a mango off the tree, or when you come late from parking. My brother used to stay there when he's on the street, like, where he going to fruits and things. But I know that crime have gotten more serious, they're into the drugs, and they're into everything. But I don't really, I can now tell when people are smoking and stuff because of how how their eyes look and stuff. But like in my spirit, I could tell in my spirit, like if I'm walking someplace and somebody is about to, in your spirit you can tell, because God will show you. And
People passing to smell marijuana on another.
yes,
Strong work that don't care.
yes,
Everywhere though.
yes, that is true. Where we used to work, the outside there, Reverend Terry didn't even know what it was. I had to call the sheriff and answer, what is that scent that every evening at 3 o'clock? You smell that scent. She said, "No." So she said, "You're the only one that don't know." I never accustomed to smelling it, so now, yes, you could smell it, but if you're in that right place, you would smell it and so on. But there are lots of things that's going on concerning the crime, and then the other thing I was going to mention is that we have before, like my grandmother, my mom, when the children go off to school, everybody else is at work. So she would make sure she get home by 3 o'clock so that when all the children walk down, they can stop at her. But now you don't have grandparents, keeping the children or being home because lots of grandparents are working too. You see? So the children are not getting the attention that they need. So like somebody was saying about the boys on the block. So the boys on the block are helping them. They're helping them, they're babysitting. And while they're babysitting, their fees will, you have to be a lookout and things. You probably have a job to do too. So all of it stemmed from that. We went that road and so on. And somebody was saying that you don't have like that. In school now there are no prayers or anything. So like if I know my children was at school, I used to pray for the entire farm room. I don't just pray for them, I would pray for the classroom and the teacher. And then one day a person you pray for the teachers, you gotta pray for all the teachers one time. So I did. So we as Christians, I want to egg off by saying that we as Christians, we have to the Bible said, Jesus said the government is on his shoulder. But if it's on his shoulder, the pastor's always saying that it's illegal to come down here and do certain things. So we have to pray for the children next door that's into drugs. Because if you don't pray for them, and strong prayers too, we have to pray for them so that their habits don't come to our children who live 2 houses down. And then we have to pray for the neighborhood too. We have to pray for our neighborhood. We don't know what's in it or anything, but we have to pray for it. I remember going home at night and I'm going to finish off now. I was going home at night and I had to call Reverend O'Carroll to ask him something. I was going to call when he get home, but I just didn't call him now. And they did call him and they was talking. And the way they was talking to me, when I'm driving across the gap before you get home, there's like a 4 cross thing there. Yeah. And as he's talking to me, we were both like going, there's something in front of you funny. So he asked what was it? And it was a man. Well, it eventually morphed into a man. But this whole thing, like a force up. And then I leaned forward to tell him, and this looked like a little force bus. And the light was there so I could see. And then he said, there's not a force. And then he said, okay, it's a man. But I don't know if he's a man, but he's very tall to be a man. And then I kind of, but he had something. He looked like he was looking at the phone, but he put the thing back through it, like he went over his eye and like thing. So I could keep was in grade, but I couldn't tell you what a man looked like. So I tell about that. So he said, but your door is locked. You did? Again, I always have my doors locked. So he said, oh, well, and you all right? I said, yes, I go, okay. And then when I look back, it disappeared. I said, well, it disappeared now. So he said, well, all right, talk to me till you get home. And that was it. So, you know, a lot of things are happening that we don't even know. I can't, the only thing I always think about is that, you know, you read stories and you hear they meet at these crossroads. So I start getting curious as to what really happened at crossroads, but not that curious to go down back by that crossroad. So when I get there, I know I'm being put a little, you know, pep. You know, I'm thinking I can drag along a little faster. I don't wait till I get the gate open and I call ahead and ask somebody to open the gate for me. So when they just drag it relative and fit, you know? So that's my contribution to the crime in Barbados. And I just want to say that as Christians, everybody, we keep saying how many churches we have in Barbados, but everybody have to pray for their neighbor, you know, and for their children, and that is going to help. But it's already out of the schools. It's already out of the schools. That's my contribution.
We have one more person joining us, and we were just discussing crime and violence within our nation, Barbados, and I guess we could just wrap up with you in terms of discussing more solutions pertaining especially to the church, because what Revelation would have highlighted is that there's spiritual activity behind this as well. So what our leaders are doing above us, contracts, burying flags, doing all sorts of things, they all trickle down into all areas of our societies. There's strongholds in our communities, there's strongholds at blocks, and we as the children of God need to begin to take back our authority and to fight in those respective areas. So just your thoughts on solutions.
Good night, everyone. As Revelation was speaking about stuff that she had seen, in my neighborhood, one time I would actually pray for myself and the children. But then in the morning, maybe hours in the morning, God opened up my eyes to show me some stuff that was happening in our neighborhood. And I began to pray, not only for myself and my children, but also for the neighborhood. And then sometimes you will hear like funny things going on. But if you're walking in the spirit, you will know that those things are not real. They are not natural in the natural. So one morning I got up and the Holy Spirit was speaking to me concerning this stuff. Pastor Lucas was also up and I spoke to him about it. And he said, but you know that you have to pray. So what I realized that things are happening in our neighborhood, you cannot actually go and report it to the police because I want to hear this. There's people in the neighborhood that actually alert these people that are going wrong that the law force is coming. So when the law force gets there, there's nothing can be done because all the evidence have been removed. So as Reverend was saying that we have to pray for our neighborhood. And I think it's a good idea concerning the church that we take on our shoulders to pray for the neighborhoods. And pray for the kids too, because there's a lot of stuff going on. They leave midnight to go and do what they have to do. So by the dawn of morning, everything is over. And that's my contribution right now. We need to pray. As a church, we will pray for the neighborhoods.
Right, so we are about to wrap up and we will begin our Bible study right after this. We want to thank you for joining us and having this discussion. A lot was said and a lot needs to be done, and ultimately we need to take back our position as what Revelation would have said, that the government is on our shoulder. We need to push in every way, form, and fashion by prayer in our actions and by what we do daily, because we cannot just live by our words, but we need to live by our actions. And hopefully we have another opportunity to discuss further what God is laying on our lives. So thank you very much for joining us. Yes, we're coming back on right now, so please don't leave. We are just about to begin our Bible study, and we have a powerful word to deliver.